What's going on, YouTube? Claic Yuzolt back again with another Genshin Impact video, and today I'm going to be talking all about excelling when you're raising up your artifacts, making sure you're not wasting that Mora or wasting up your experience levels on artifacts that aren't good, and how to build the perfect set for your characters. Let's get into it. So guys, we all know that artifacts in the end game of Genshin Impact are going to be our best power boosting thing we can do for our character's progression, and a big part of that comes from the main stat up here. So each of these artifacts is going to have a main stat. That is going to be the biggest boost we get from these besides the set bonuses, but we're not going to be talking about those today. We're talking about how to build and level up, perfect artifacts here, and they're going to be very important, guys. Every time you level up an artifact, this is going to go up, adding a larger amount to what your character can have on. And for flowers, it's always going to be HP. For feathers, always flat attack. But then we get into the other pieces of artifacts, and you will see some varying degrees of, crit rate, attack percent. I think one of these has geo damage up, HP percent, all kinds of good stuff like that. I'm going to go ahead and pull up on the screen all the different combinations of main stats you can get from these other three artifacts. However, I am going to link the wiki in the description below, so when you're cross-checking this, you can make sure you're aware of what it can roll. So it's going to be very important. That's going to be specific to your character build. Do you want elemental mastery? Do you want geo damage up? Do you want, physical damage up? Is your person a main attacker, like a white attacker, like my Chongyun is here, the one I click with a lot? That's going to determine what you want that main stat to be. But let's say you've already determined what you want it to be, but you want to move on to knowing when and how to level up your artifacts, right? So why are we always after a 5-star artifact as compared to a 4-star? Like, what's the difference? Well, first and foremost is going to be maximum level. So we can see that on this level 16 5-star artifact, I can actually take this bad boy up to level 20, while this 4-star is maxed at 16. Why does that matter? First, the main stat is actually going to be capped here, right? Because I cannot level it anymore. If I were to level this 5-star up, this main stat would keep going up with each level, growing and growing. Another thing you can look at here is, at level 16, the 5-star has 3,967 HP, where the 4-star only has 3,571. So even at the same level, the 5-star is providing more of a main stat, which is very, very big, right? Because of its crit percent, or its pyro damage up, etc., attack percent, it is going to give you more, which is great, because with the bigger stats, the bigger we can hit with. The next thing that is big difference between a 5-star and a 4-star artifact and all the artifacts, I'm going to bring up a little thing here from the wiki, are the number of substats that the artifact can drop with. Now, this is going to be very important. A 4-star artifact can only drop with 2 to 3 maximum of a substat on an item, and an item can have a maximum of 4 substats total, okay? A 5-star drops with 3 to 4. Now, why is that important? Well, as you're leveling, every 4 levels that you put into an artifact, you are either A, going to get a new substat until it reaches its maximum of 4, or you are going to randomly roll into one of the substats, making them larger, making them stronger. So, every 4 levels, right? 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, automatically we get a whole other roll here with the 5-star artifact, whereas 16 is where we stop here, so we get 4 more, so one of these substats are going up. The next thing is, again, like I mentioned, the 5-star artifact has a chance to have all 4 substats already, so instead of rolling a random substat, we are actually going to get to increase one of these substats instead of having, with the whole 4-star artifact, wasting our first 4 levels on rolling a magical defense plus 15 or something like that. So hopefully that makes sense. So what I'm going to do now is kind of show you guys that I have a 4-star artifact here. I'm not saying these are great substats. Percents are always great, over flat. But I just want to show you guys what I'm talking about. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to auto add. We're going to level up here a little bit. You're going to see what I mean. I've leveled up, HP goes up there, and then once I get to the 4th level, which I'm sure you guys have done this plenty of times, we're going to see that we actually get a substat added instead of, a increase to one of our substats here. And guys, you can get bonuses up here, like you can get like double experience added to your artifacts, which is pretty cool. So you can see a new attribute has been added, and look how it is. It is the flat defense, which is awful. You really don't want that. So we're gonna go ahead and leave this artifact alone for a minute, and that's really how you're gonna roll your artifacts, guys. You're gonna look for artifacts that already have 3 to 4 substats, in my opinion, with a main stat that you want, and then you're gonna go ahead and start rolling. Now, what about these substats? What substats are you looking for? That's really gonna depend on who you're building and what you're looking for. For example, with Mona, I would want a lot of energy recharge, right? Because her ultimate scales off of energy recharge. But let's say a normal attacker like Chongyun, we're looking for percentages, baby. We don't want those flat stats over here. We want critical rate, we want crit damage, and we want attack percent. And the first thing you need to understand when you're looking for substats is, let's say we take this attack percent, you will never find the main stat in the substats on any of these. For example, you won't find HP flat down here on the Flower of Life, you won't find flat attack on the feathers, and then so forth and so on. So even if I click on this, has geo damage bonus, we're never getting that down here. Does that make sense? So we're really looking for the percentages. Now you may be asking, you know, do I need attack percent or crit damage? Let's think about how this works. You need early game to have a lot of flat attack, a lot of attack percent, because your base stats aren't that high. You're still leveling up your character. But as your character gets stronger, bigger, tougher, leveled up, you're going to have a lot of attack that this critical rate will spawn off of, will, you know, multiply off of. Because remember, a crit rate hit is going to do your crit damage to it. So you need to have a strong attack, which is your main number. Then you have a percent chance to crit with that main number. And then it's going to do crit damage, which is going to be a multiplier to your main attacks. If your main attack is like 20 and you try to crit with it, it's still going to be pretty crappy because you didn't have an attack to back it up. So you're really looking for an attacker, crit rate up, crit damage up, attack percent, these are all percentages, and then maybe elemental mastery can be thrown in there, because if you guys didn't know, elemental mastery increases when you do elemental reactions, how much damage you do, energy recharge to get your ultimates or you know, energy burst back, etc. But the three main stats you're really looking, if you're looking for like a godly type of weapon, you're looking for percentages here, and then you're looking to roll into those percentages. So let's say I level this bad boy up, and I'm going, and you know, I have crit percent rate, crit damage, you know, defense percent's okay, and then I have defense flat. And let's say I kept leveling this thing up and it kept going into defense flat. You want to stop. You don't want to waste all of this mora. You don't want to waste all of this experience, because you're really wasting it on an artifact that isn't going to be good in the end. You can see on this artifact, it was one of my first 5-star ones. I did, you know, invest in it early game. But you can see it rolled a lot into defense. Look how high this defense is compared to my other stats. And while you do need to survive, I would have much rather had this go into my crit rate. Because we go back and look at my Chongyun here, his crit rate really isn't that high. I'd like to have this around 50-60% of the time he's critting, and then start slowly, you know, trying to make his crit damage go up so I can be hitting really large, be hitting really big. He has a nice attack stat. You know, it's nothing too crazy, 1,700, but I think that's good enough for right now, where I can start focusing on getting crit rate and crit damage up. Energy recharge, again, like I said, and you guys can always come in here and look at it. It will tell you what they do. And same with elemental mastery if you get confused. This is stuff you can add on top, but I think for main attackers and when you're trying to do the damage, unless there's somewhat weird, like we have Mona here, actually going to be working on energy recharge for her, because if we go to her Waterborne Destiny passive, and this is going to go character to character, guys. You're going to have to look at builds, look at your character, decide what you want before you start leveling. She actually does, you know, scale with energy recharge rate, letting her use her ultimate or her elemental burst way more often and doing more hydro damage with that. So it's really going to be dependent on the character, but that's just kind of like an overall guide to what you're kind of looking for down here. Always percent over flat if you can. Obviously, elemental mastery doesn't have a percent. But overall, guys, I hope this helped you out. The last piece of advice I want to give you is, if you did find yourself just splurging on one of these artifacts, you find, oh my god, it's terrible. Look at these substats. The main stat's gross. Don't worry, you can fuse it into another artifact and you get 90% of the experience you put into it when you put it into another artifact, which is going to be huge. You don't get the Mora back though, and guys, in this game, Mora is a huge chokehold, so be careful with your money. You got to use it for leveling up your units, for leveling up your weapons and your artifacts. You're going to need a ton of it, so be careful. Make sure you get that special treasure chest in the bank. In Luaway, you're going to need that. So if you guys like this video, give it a thumbs up. Comment down below if this guide helped you out at all with making artifacts and what you're looking for. Subscribe for future Genshin Impact content. Follow me on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Claic Yuzolt, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.